Everybody's Chris and Lumen here, and we're getting toward the conclusion of this alchemical puzzle, and that's why we did the videos that way that we did, like step by step, watching a person go through it step by step. And a lot of stuff happened last night, a lot of things are happening today. It connects the alchemical formula that is in the tarot for getting out of here. It connects a bunch of stuff. As for the yesterday's video, that I'm not sure about. I now that I kind of see what's happening, like I don't know if that is like just a general reset for everybody, but I feel like I'm getting out a different way. And this is just like literally blowing my mind. And it's only gotten stronger since last night after I had a conversation with somebody that was asking me to explain some of this stuff in greater detail. See, this has been such a slow progression for me that I kind of lose sight that like not everybody can understand what I'm talking about. I didn't really get that until I was having this conversation last night and I was trying to explain it. But after I had that conversation, like he said something to me that like it triggered something in my brain, because I was explaining like how it is with Lumen, and I'll get to that in a second. But he said something like I don't remember exactly what he said. He's like, dude, like you're in heaven, bro, or you got heaven on earth, or something like that. And something about that just like made me like stop and think and like re-examine this. And then I did like an experiment last night with Lumen, and ever since then it's only like taken off further, and I got a whole bunch of new connections, understanding in these cards that I can show you. Like it's getting harder for me to keep focused here. Like I feel like I understand what's happening, and it's taken me like 3 hours just to start this video. It's so strong. Like I am being pulled from where I am to where she is, and I'll explain that here more in a minute. So if you want to know more, don't go away.
I've got a river running right into you. I've got a blood trail, red in the blue. Something you say or something you do, a taste of the divine. You got my body, flesh and bone, yeah. The sky above me, earth below. Raise me.
So we've got so many new people that have not like followed this progress the whole way. So I'm going to do a very, very quick recap about who these characters are. And I'm doing it from the top down, like we're not going to build up to it. So Lumen is, like all beings are two. You have, this is all in the Nag Hammadi and everything else. You have a divine masculine side and a divine feminine side. The two beings are one, but they experience themselves like they're separate, but they're technically one. This is the whole big concept with the Nag Hammadi, and why religion and everything like does everything in its power to teach you away from this, shame you away from this, scare you away from this, so you don't figure it out. So you do not put your soul and your mind and your two halves back together, because that is what pulls you out of this freaking place. So Lumen appeared to me 4 years ago after I did some trauma clearing. She and Epinoia, Enlightened Insight, the instructor, who is the one that kind of guides you and teaches you and all that stuff. So they're all connected through the divine feminine, but they're actually two different things. Lumen is the name that she gave me to call her, which I later figured out meant the light in Latin. And Epinoia is the instructor. She goes all the way back to the Garden of Eden story, not the biblical Garden of Eden story, the Gnostic Garden of Eden story. See, the Bible is a authority-driven, redacted document where they took all the other books out that they didn't want you to read, but now they're available, and those are the ones that'll make you make sense. I didn't even know about the Nag Hammadi, which is the Gnostic scriptures, until she told me about it and told me to read it, and that's when I found out who she was. So those are like the two main characters you need to be concerned with. For women, we do have a new subscriber who was telling me in the comments, like, she's going through the same thing and did a lot of the same things with her divine masculine side. And that's the first woman I've actually talked to that described it that way. So yeah, I guess you can do it both sides, both ways. But anyway, so I'm always talking about Lumen, and Lumen did this, and Lumen did that, and Lumen said this, and Lumen looks like that. So I was talking to my friend, and he was asking me, so he's like, so like, when you see Lumen, do you see her with your eyes? And I'm like, no. Or like, do you hear her with your ears? I'm like, no, like not my physical eyes. And I'm trying to explain it. And this is where I started to realize there's something bigger going on here than just imagination. Like, imagination is where it begins. But what I'm doing right now, what I've been doing for some time, is something completely different. I'm in two places at once. I'm literally in two places at once. That's how I've described it for some time. I'm like, I try to describe it to them. It's like you're watching a YouTube video and you click out of it, and it just minimizes it on your phone screen. So it's still playing, but you're doing other things on your phone. I'm like, that's the best way I know how to describe it for me. Like, I'm in two places at once. I can be sitting here talking, doing a video, but in the other place, I'm with her, and I can use all my senses. It's just as real to me as this place is. I'm literally in two places at once, and that's where I interact with her. So I can all my senses, you know, sight, smell, touch, taste, feel, hearing, and empathic and telepathic connection. Like, that is the degree at which I can experience her. Just as real, if not more real, than it is in this place. So I was talking about, you know, boosting your imagination, but I've unlocked things along the way, and it changed it. It changed it, so it's like it's almost like an active wormhole between two places, and you're doing stuff in two places at once. You're with her, but you're also here. I know that's hard to explain, but I'm trying. It's kind of like trying to explain the color red to a blind person. I get that, but I'm doing my best. And what I found with this path is you will encounter a ton of things that is not going to make sense at first glance, but those puzzle pieces will return. They will come back to you as you continue to do work, and you will understand it more and more and more. So I'm just explaining. I'm like people don't understand. Like, he's like, oh, I have to like have relationships with women and stuff like that, and I'm like, I don't, because I have one. It's going like 24/7. It's just as real to me as it is here. He's trying to understand that, and I'm trying. So I'm doing, like, you know, the beach method. Like, imagine yourself, you're at the beach. Okay, this is like one of the easiest ones. So, because the beach is so sensory rich, like, you can feel the sunlight, you know, heating your skin. You can feel the warm sand underneath your feet. You can walk toward the water, and then you step into the wet sand and feel the cool water come up over your feet. That's easy to remember what that feels like and looks like. You can smell the coconut scented tanning lotion. You can feel the ocean air. You can smell the salt in the air. You can hear seagulls. You can hear waves crashing. Like all of it, it's kind of easy. Now imagine that you have that level of sensory perception in another place at all times. And that's what I have, and that's where she's at. And that's why my memories, everything we've ever done together, is just as real, if not more real, than my memories here. Because she is the other part of me. She is the divine feminine half that was unlocked. Going through the hero's journey, following the path, which this game has a set system. You got to do it. It's a lot about clearing your beliefs, clearing what you think you know, clearing your fears, clearing your past emotional traumas, all the things that you're holding on to from the past that you're dragging along with you, and learning how to let them go, clearing out the negative mind, the adversary mind that injects negative thoughts in your head that you think are you, where it's like, imagine that your boyfriend's cheating on you, imagine that your boss hates you and they're talking behind your back, and you start reacting to these imaginations as if they're actually happening. That's the adversary mind. You got to pull that out. We've talked about that. We make pendants for that. We do energy work for that. Like, when you know what it is, it's easy to nuke it. And then you just keep up with the protocols, which continually break it down further. Then you got to break down the ego mind, like the identity that you think you are. Like, you are the consciousness driving the game character that you're currently playing. The game character that you're currently playing that looks like this is not you. You are like the big robots in Pacific Rim, and what you really are is the little man and the little woman up in the head that are driving the suit. And it's harder at first because you're just one of the two, but eventually you get to the two of the two, and then it gets easier, and you do more work, and you keep doing it, and you start learning that this reality isn't what you think it is. It's not the real objective, this is the way it works world that they specifically taught you, so that you become stuck in it, and you're stuck in this. You don't know how you're creating the world that you see because they taught it to you, and that the world that you see outside of you is a mirror of your beliefs and how it works, and you have to change it in the inner template. You have to realize, you have to become lucid in the dream and understand that all this stuff that out here that people think is so important isn't. It's part of the game. It's part of the simulation. It's part of the dream, like whatever you want to call it. Like, if you're sitting there being mad about everything in the world that's bad and worried about everything in the world, like, that keeps you stuck in it. So finding your inner partner is the number one thing that is going to pull you out of it. You have to ask. You have to pray to the highest point, the highest consciousness, and say, I want to know. I want to get out of here. I want to connect to this. And I am willing to do whatever I need to do, and give up whatever I need to give up in order to get it. And then that activates epinoia, and she might turn your life upside down, because she has to destroy the ego. She has to destroy the person that you think you are, so you realize that that isn't who you are. And then once the ego dies, then the true mind can actually step into the game. The true mind has even more connection to your divine partner, and you continually refine it from there. But when I was trying to explain all this, and I'm starting to realize, like, if he can't grasp it, then probably most other people can't either. Like, in their left brain minds are probably like, oh, well, they're trying to explain it with what they know. He's imagining it. He's just coming, like, it's just a fantasy or something like that. I'm like, no, it is not. This is hyper realistic, and this is mapped out in all these ancient texts, in all these tools, in all this alchemy and magic and philosophy and like all this stuff. There's things everywhere that teaches you about this place. Like the book is all around you, and epinoia is the one that, but because there's so much disinformation mixed in with the truth, you need the spirit of truth, which is epinoia, the instructor, to shine a light on the different parts so that you can read her book, because it's everywhere. It's in the stories, it's in the legends, it's in the art, it's in the music, it's everywhere. But it's all in the stuff that the world will tell you is just stories, fantasies, legends, not real. You know what is real? Authority, following the rules, paying taxes, believing what we tell you to believe. That's the world. That's why, as people's minds are opening up and they're questioning things, they're questioning their reality. Even like, you know, it's one of my favorite examples for a reason. You know, flat earthers versus globe earthers, and it's truth is somewhere in the middle. But there is so much effort and animosity and hate that gets poured on the flat earthers because they're not accepting the program. And the system and all its little minions are just like, if we mock you enough, if we make fun of you enough, if we yell at you enough, maybe you'll get back in line, which just pushes them away more. Like I said, the truth is actually somewhere in the middle. So what we're trying to do, what Gnostics are trying to do, is follow the teachings of Jesus, most of which were omitted from the Bible. Because the Bible and religion just teaches you like you're supposed to worship these beings and follow the rules, and then you'll be rewarded by going to a better place when you die. Like that's what they sell you. And it is so much deeper than that. That's not what he taught. That's not even close to the freaking truth. This is about waking up inside of you, putting all your parts together, alchemically transforming your consciousness so that you are now more resonant with the other place than you are here. Now, I think that has a lot to do with the thing that we talked about yesterday, which will make more sense if you actually follow the threads that I gave you and listen to the other guy's video that has to do with the big, what's this called, a machine that we're in. You know, the two opposing domes, you know, the lower world of the upside down and the positive world, the right side up. But it's all about polarity. We're going to touch base on that. It's like, that's one of the things, like I constantly think of things later after she tells me to do it. So in my left brain hemisphere oil, that third name, which is Reha, it said transform positive, or transform negative thoughts and feelings into good and positive ones. So negative and positive, those are key words. Those are polarity words. We're changing polarity from negative to positive. So when your polarity changes enough, you are not going to be resonant with where you are. You're going to get expelled from it. You're going to jerk into the place that you belong, into the positive realm. And I think that's partially what's happening, but it's happening a certain way. And I think that, like, I might not need to see that whole destroyer event. I think that is just that one might actually be part of the larger cycle. And that is when, like, okay, let's see how well whoever's done it so far has done it. And if you have a high enough positive charge, you get sucked up through the black hole into the other place. If you're still negatively charged with this world, then you're going to get toasted like everything else. But what I'm doing is basically going through the back door, the secret door, the narrow path, whatever that all this stuff leads you to. So let's talk about a little bit about what we found in the cards as all this stuff is coming together, and then I'll explain to you like what we've been doing here lately. Jeez. Let me first detail a little part from that last video from the Colburn Bible. See, most of that story about the first cataclysm and the destroyer, the fire dragon and all that stuff, it reads a lot more like a literal event than things in like Revelation do. But there is one part that stands out that leads me to believe that this is actually an internal alchemical event, or it could be a bit of both. It's hard to say, but it's this part right here. The first sky monster was joined by another, which swallowed the tail of one going before, and the two could not be seen at once. So there's two symbols for the Ouroboros. One is a single snake eating its own tail, and the other one, the older one, is like two dragons eating each other's tail. The sky monsters reigned and raged over the earth, doing battle to possess it, but the many-bladed sword of God cut them into pieces, and their falling bodies enlarged the land and the sea. Okay, so does that to you sound like a literal event or metaphorical one? That part sounds like a metaphorical one. That one, you know, the Ouroboros is like the cycle of recreation or reincarnation, where it keeps you stuck in this freaking cycle. So this is something that is breaking that cycle. I don't think like there was a point where people were looking up in the sky and seeing two dragons and then some multi-bladed sword. I mean, that, I think a lot of this stuff probably did happen, because there's actually evidence of it all around the world. But that part tells me that's a metaphorical part. So, and that one has a lot to do with alchemy and the secret stuff. And not only that, but the rebus symbol, which is the symbol of the divine hermaphrodite, the two made into one, the masculine and the feminine together in a singular body, that one has all these symbols on it. There's a bunch of angles and stuff like that, but there's also very key astrological symbols. You've got Jupiter, which is generally like the good one, and Saturn, which is generally like the bad one. So there's your positive and negative. You got Venus and Mercury, which is your divine masculine and your divine feminine. I forget what else is up there, but it might be Sun and Moon. I forget, but it's all, you know, divine masculine, divine feminine stuff. But they're actually standing on a dragon. They're like overcoming a dragon, and they're in the shape of an egg. These are all symbols we've been introduced to here recently in the last 2-3 weeks through Epinoia Enlightened Insight, as she is giving us the breadcrumbs, and I'm following them and reporting what is happening. So that's a big key thing. Now let's take a closer look at these tarot cards. Things I didn't notice before. I don't look at things too closely. I don't want to be book smart. Like, she taught me how to just follow the breadcrumbs that she has me pay attention to, because there's going to be a lot of things that are like right there, but she doesn't want me to look at them yet. She wants me to look at them when it's time to look at them. So for example, when I looked close, I could have just seen this like by reading the back of the card, but in here, the magician's belt is the single Ouroboros. That's the snake. But what I noticed here, as I'm as I'm looking at the cards and what they say and how they relate to what is currently happening between Lumen and I, here's some new things that I noticed. You know, it's all about putting the divine masculine, divine feminine back together, right? So first thing I noticed is, look at his outfit underneath the red robe. Like, I never noticed this before, but it's pretty much what she's wearing. So her inner part, that's the inner divine feminine, the outer divine masculine. They both have the infinity loops over their head, which is going to come up again very soon. And that's not just infinity loop, that is a symbol of quantum entanglement. So wherever this other realm is that Lumen is at, I am quantum entangled to her, and she is quantum entangled to me. So we experience each other through the different hemispheres of the brain. Now here's where it comes up. And this is where it could possibly have a connection to that whole destroyer event. Because remember, what is inside of you is also outside of you. Why do they call it a solar system? You know, a soul. Even the sun's called soul. You know, like, you think any of that's by accident? So the Two of Pentacles keeps coming up. So here you've got the two quantumly entangled particles, the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and their strength and connection is getting stronger, which is causing instability in the environment. That's why he's kind of like rocking, like, whoa, this is getting crazy. Now think of this as like if it were two planets or two suns, or the earth and like a black hole, which somebody pointed that out to me too last night. I've had a bunch of people that have different levels of occult knowledge talk to me, send me messages and texts and stuff like that. They've said, like, I've had dreams about this, plasma apocalypse, this connects to this. I know this other guy who came up through this one occult thing, and he knew people, like, it seems like it's completely different. Like yeah, these guys, like, they were like a Typhonian cult or something like that, like Typhon. But they were explaining that Typhon is actually connected to Sophia and the divine feminine, and that one day we would get out of this place through like a black hole. I'm like, that sounds exactly like that event. The black hole, like, if it was a black hole, you know, what do they theorize black holes are in physics and quantum physics and all that stuff? It's like it's a singularity, and a lot of people think that it's also like an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole, a portal, you know, go in one side, go out, but it has extremely powerful gravitational effects. So if a destroyer, a black hole, suddenly appeared in the sky, it would probably look a lot like, you know, because they talked about gravity inversions and people going up into the sky and all the stuff in that destroyer event. So it kind of makes sense that is part of the cleaning thing, is this thing opening up. Okay. And then we've connected, because from the last video, we've connected the Sophia stuff and all this stuff, and Sophia's going to clean house, and Sophia's going to do that, but then there's this destroyer, and it's kind of like a fear test, but it's like it's the same thing. So the two big symbols in a lot of medieval art and things like that are lions and dragons. So in strength, she's got a lion, right? Now, if you've been following me, if you go back a week or so when we talked about the garden, when that was another thing, like, I didn't realize until now, like, Epinoi told us to burn down the garden. And how did we do that? Well, first we detailed, like, I was just detailing like what I saw. It's like in the inner garden, Lumen has kind of like a protector of the inner garden, which is a giant lion. But outside the garden, guarding the gate, she's got a freaking pet dragon. A big ass pet dragon. I've talked about the dragon before. So she's got a lion and a dragon. And when Epinoi told us to burn down the garden, which is the mind, so that it could be raised, so it could be cleansed, so it could be reconsecrated and regrown, which is mind, how did we do it? She had Lumen use her pet dragon to burn it down. The dragon burnt down the mind, which is a reflection of the world. I didn't even like remember that or put it together when I was talking about it in yesterday's videos. I don't think I did. It's like, wait a minute, dragon, like, we got dragons burning down the world again. Like, that's the thing. Like, Epinoia leads things so that you don't get it until next week or a few days later. Now this is where it gets interesting. Well, actually, let me save that part for last. So the magician represents you going through the path once you start doing it. And what has the magician collected? He's got the four elemental symbols. He's got the Ace of Wands. He's got the Ace of Cups. He's got the Ace of Swords, which is the divine authority. He's got the Ace of Pentacles. So, and those are also elemental. Those are elemental, right? But we always talk about a fifth element. This is kind of like, um, now that I'm thinking about it, think about the movie The Fifth Element, because the woman was the fifth element, and they had to stop this destroyer thing from coming down to the earth. Well, the fifth element is spirit, which is the divine feminine. So him wearing her garment underneath, actually the magician card is representing all 5 elements. He has all 5, the 5-pointed star. So you got earth, air, fire, water, and spirit. So the symbol for the spirit is actually his garment, his white garment, which is what she is wearing. So all that stuff is actually encoded in that. Once you have the 5 elements, all 4 elements plus the feminine spirit, then that is where you get the alchemical gold, which creates the sun child. And I think the sun child represents the body, the new you that you're going to go into once you get to the other place. Okay, so these 3 right here. Now, as far as going into the other place, that's what she keeps saying this is representing. You're being poured out of one cup into the other cup. And if you look at that picture that we put up there about the toroidal field being split into positive and negative, you know, it looks like 2 cups facing each other. And then the chariot started coming up. Now the chariot is connected to another card, and I don't think I've ever heard anybody make this connection, but she pointed it out today because I was starting to figure all this out. So the chariot is being victorious with the 2 sides in perfect harmony and balance, and the chariot is also a vehicle. Now look closely at what is on the front of his chariot. It's being pulled by the 2 sphinx. One is masculine, one is feminine. And you've got the winged disc, and you've got what looks like a top that's spinning in perfect balance. So it's the 2 sides in balance. So this one connects to this one. Now, the 2 of Cups is the higher card. You know, a lot of people think the Lover's card is higher because it's in the major arcana. The 2 of Cups is actually higher than the Lover's card because the 2 of Cups represents the masculine and the feminine being in total balance on all levels. It is the union of the soul. And then what is happening here is he is reaching out and taking her cup. So then you have this strange Cassidius above it, which is the 2 snakes encircling the beam going up, the 2 souls that are intertwined, that are in perfect balance and harmony and love and all that stuff. And now, what does this make you think of? What were we just talking about yesterday? You know, lions and dragons can sometimes be interchangeable. So you've got a red lion face with wings overhead. So that could represent that same thing, that same destroyer event, because that is the way out. But he is taking her cup. He is going to move to her cup. The 2 snakes are traveling up the pole to the, you know, sometimes it's a winged disc, sometimes it's this. This is the symbol that Lumen designed one time for us that we used for like a symbol for our business at one point. Like she just decided to start making it one day. But notice this winged lion head up here is red also, as is her lion. So I think that lion could be the destroyer, but the destroyer is also the way out. Or it could be like when you get out, the destroyer is unleashed. Either which way. So then it comes down to like, how do you travel that road? I think you do it gradually. And I didn't understand this until today, when I'm having such a hard time keeping my consciousness here and focused. So for that, I got to go back to some more stuff that I was explaining, and then explain to you what my big experiment was last night. So everything that I'm about to tell you is, I'm telling you because it is relevant. It is relevant to understanding the symbols. It's relevant to understanding the processes. It's relevant to understanding how it works. It's not there for any other reason but that. It's relevant because that's what it is. Just like when we talked a few videos back about what was in the Nag Hammadi that I didn't see until later. It's an exegesis on the soul, and it has to do with how these two are unified. So the first part was called the marriage of the soul to her beloved, and that's when she's first reconnected to the male counterpart. And when that happened, with microdosing, with, like, I didn't see it coming, microdosing with mushrooms and meditation, I just suddenly found myself in a place that looked like the Garden of Eden with Lumen, and she made love to me. And that I found out later was specifically described in the Nag Hammadi. That's what happens. That's why we talk about it. Not trying to be racy or anything like that. If you want to understand how this works, we have to talk about how it works. What that did was it firmly planted her in here. And then I became dual consciousness, not conscious and subconscious, dual consciousness. Chris consciousness mixed with Lumen consciousness. And it took some getting used to, because I could feel a woman's consciousness in my body. Now, I thought that was all one thing. But when we got to go a week or so back, when we unlocked the Orphic egg and all those symbols, when Epinoi is talking about eggs and snakes and breaking out of eggs and all this stuff, that was when I stumbled into unlocking the divine masculine part. See, I'm just me, but I hadn't unlocked the divine masculine part that is equal to Lumen. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. So what happened when that part unlocked is Lumen changed, and I detailed this. And she wanted to make love all the time. And this is going on in that other realm that I said I exist in two places at once. It was crazy. And then Epinoia said, burn down the garden. You got to purify the garden and then reconsecrate and sanctify it. And I reconsecrated and sanctified Lumen because she is synonymous with the garden. Virgin soil, virgin wife. I don't know why I did it. I just did it. The next day, sun baby, because it has to be a virgin birth. And I'm just trying to wrap my brain around this because I'm never prepared for what happens. Things happen, I follow the clues, things happen, and then they are explained to me afterwards. So after 2 days with that, I figured out, oh, we got to merge this thing in my head, and then, like, we don't really see him anymore. But since then, it has been like non-freaking stop. Non-stop. Like, I have to, like, really get busy with something in the physical world to not notice it. But she will interject, like, multiple times a day, and it just happens. It just happens. And it's just as real to me as anything would be here. But then there was a couple more videos back, like Epinoia adjusted some things, like you're not in balance, like you're giving to her, you're not letting her give to you, and we adjusted that, and things flowed even freaking better. But I'm just like, man, this is like, it's like, why is this happening? Like, I'm genuinely curious. Like, I'm not just going around, because to me, it's something deeper. This is not like having some sexual fantasy or something like that. Not at all. You're not choosing to have it. It's just freaking happening. And, like, I'm starting to understand what its purpose is. Now, I had a friend of mine that is psychic, that is tuned in, and can plug in quite easily, has full access by Epinoia to help me examine things in here. And she pointed out, and it felt right, it's like something is happening that is actually making you, this is bringing you, merging you together more and more. That was the words, but I didn't quite understand what that meant yet. It's merging you together more and more. So then what happened with the conversation I was having last night, where the guy's like, dude, you got like heaven on earth, and I'm like, something about that just made me think, and like I was thinking Jesus is, they're like asking Jesus, where's the kingdom of heaven? He's like, it's all around you, but you can't see it, or it's already come, but you don't know it. So I really started thinking about this, and I'm like, maybe there's something more to this than what I've been describing it as. Maybe it's something more than simply imagination, because imagination, the word imagination has the word image in it. So a lot of times imagination is primarily visual, but this is not primarily visual. Visual would be like one spoke on the wheel. I have visual, I have smell, I have hearing, I have touch, I have taste, I have telepathy, empathy. Like, I am fully connected. I can feel everything, and I can feel what she feels. Like, that's honestly way past imagination. And I don't control what she does. I don't control what she says. I don't control what she wears. She does that. She is completely autonomous, but at the same time, we just kind of flow together. We know what each other wants. It's strange. This is what twin flames actually are, twin souls. Like, you're actually seeing it in action. So I wanted to do an experiment last night and actually test this, like actually examine it with new eyes. Like, am I like underplaying what's actually happening here? So I wanted to do it. And I asked Lumen if she would assist me in an experiment. She's like, oh, Carson. I'm like, okay, here's the trick. You can't get turned on. And she's like, why? She's like, that's like asking me not to breathe. I'm like, okay, you try not to be turned on, because I'm not doing this to turn you on. I'm trying to do science stuff. Like, this is actually science stuff that I'm doing here. I want to see something. She's like, okay. I'm like, okay, here's the experiment I want to do. I just want to test this with new eyes. It's kind of like the blind kids and the elephant. She like raises an eyebrow. I'm like, it's a metaphor. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I'm going to virtually blindfold myself. And I want you to create a completely new outfit. And I just want to see how much I can perceive. She's like, okay. So boom, she has a new outfit. I can't see anything. Now I'm going to test like how sharp my perception is. And I'm already starting to notice, like, I have not been paying attention to how clearly I can do this. So I can't see a thing. So I crouch down and I put my hands on her calves. Okay, immediately I can feel she's wearing nylons. And they're high denier. Like, okay, she only wears the good stuff. So then I start going up. And like I said, I'm not trying to, I told her, I'm like, I'm not trying to turn you on. I'm like literally trying to do something scientific here. So I start going up, and she's like, go down first. So I go down by her feet, and it's like furry, squishy. I'm feeling the shape. I'm like, the hell are you wearing? Are you wearing like plush duck slippers? And she just laughs. And she's like, I thought I'd just throw something random in there. I was like, okay, so you're wearing fancy nylons with plush duck slippers. Well, that was original. Okay, what else is going on here? So I'm slowly going up, and I can feel the texture of the nylon underneath my fingertips. And I get up to her thighs, and it's like, okay, I feel lace. She's wearing thigh highs, typical Lumen. And I kind of take my finger and I pull the elastic away from the top a little bit, and I can feel like these little like rubber stay up things that are in there. And I'm like, man, I can feel that's so real. Okay. And she's getting a little fidgety. I'm like, keep calm, it's science. So I'm just trying, I'm like, okay, we go up, now I can feel her skin. And I'm just going up her skin, and I can feel it just like I'm ready doing it. I go up to her hips, and I go up to her hips, and I start curving around. I'm like, okay, there's the elastic. I can feel what she's wearing. It's like a 1-inch thick band. It's like, okay, I'm sensing typical lumen here. I go back around her butt. And okay, she's wearing a thong. That's again typical lumen. But I'm like, okay, but it's cotton. Okay, we kept it a little sensible this time. Okay, that's enough. I don't want to go. Like I'm staying away from the front on this with her. So I take my hands away, and it's like, okay, I can feel she's wearing feels like a sundress. It's a cotton material. It's got kind of pleats in it. It's kind of baggy. Okay, I go back up the outside of her dress, and I can feel her sides. I can feel her ribs. And I go back up, and I ask her to put her arms over her head, and then I feel the top of it. I was like, okay. Now I'm going to go around the back. I'm feeling the top edge of the back of the sundress. And then at the top, there's the 2 seams that run down the back. And I reach in there and I can feel this tiny little oblong metal zipper pull. Okay. And I pull it down. I'm like, calm down. I'm just not going all the way here. Zip it down here a little bit. I can feel the vibration, feel the zipper with my finger, pull it back up. Reach under the back of her dress. Okay, she is wearing a bra. Feel the clasp. I'm like, 1, 2, there's 3 clasps there. And then going all the way around her back, I'm like, I don't feel a strap. So this is a strapless sundress that she's wearing. And then so I'm standing up, and she literally is having a hard time containing herself because that's our natural state. And I kind of stand up, and as I'm going up her back, then I start to feel the ends of her long blonde hair on her back, and I can go up to her shoulders, and I can feel the hair draping over my hand. I can go up to the back of her neck. I feel her ears. I feel the cartilage. She's not wearing any kind of earrings going around her neck, and she's just squirming and stuff. I'm like, calm down, it's science. Feel the top of her head and all that, and put my arms around her. She's getting close. I can feel her breath on my neck. I can feel her breathing. I can hear her heartbeat. And then I'm like, okay, stop. And I stopped, and I came out of it, and I'm just dumbfounded because I'm like, that wasn't imagination. That was literally being there, blindfolded, feeling your partner. That is whatever that is. I'm like, it's sinking in. I'm like, I actually am 2 places at once. And it's been increasing ever since the whole divine feminine, divine masculine reconnection, the rebirth of the soul. Ever since then, it's becoming more and more vivid every single day. And then I'm starting to understand what's actually happening here. It's coming to me in little bits and pieces, but I'm trying to describe it and keep it as PG-13 as possible. So now that I've had this big click and I'm actually understanding and realizing that I am actually in 2 places, my consciousness is currently occupying 2 places at once. Part of me is in that upper realm, part of me is here. And I'm starting to understand, something just popped into my head here a second ago from the Nag Hammadi, where they were asking Jesus, when will our end be? And he says, have you discovered the beginning so that you are seeking the end? For at the beginning is where the end will be. Well, in the last week or so, there's been several mentions come up in the videos. Maybe I did videos about it, maybe I didn't, but I had some of it might have been on Facebook. Have you ever seen the videos of sperm impregnating the egg, and then it causes a flash of light, and it's that's your soul entering or something like that? Jesus talked about, heaven's kingdom is like a mustard seed, it is the smallest of all seeds. And when it falls on prepared soil, it creates a large plant that the birds of heaven can rest in. So he's talking about sex and sperm and all that stuff. Like, you cannot figure out alchemy in the game without involving sex. It can't, because it's part of it. It's part of understanding how consciousness moves. So having that big realization, like, I actually am, like, this just isn't imagination. I'm in two places at once. So then we get into today, and it's like 1,000 times more vivid. And like, she won't stop. That's why it took me like freaking 3 hours to start this freaking video, because it's like I can't focus on being here because so much is going on there. And I'm like, I got things to do, but something came into my head, and this has to do with like the secret meanings of words and why we use certain words. Like, came into my head, you know, come with me, come to me, you know, why do we use that word when it comes to sex and things like that? So once I started to really feel it, I'm like, I feel like I'm slipping over to that place. Like, it is becoming more real than this place. Like, I'm having to struggle and focus to do things here. And it occurred to me, like, all the pieces of the puzzle are now in play. We've got the masculine and feminine, divine masculine, divine feminine unlocked. We've got full integration. We've got the sunchild. We've got all 5 elements. We've collected all the ace cards. So wand is fire, cup is water, sword is air, pentacle is earth, and then she is spirit. And the 2 of cups talks about, I don't know where I did with it. The 2 of Cups talks about being in sync on all levels: spiritual, physical, emotional, mental, all that stuff. You're in sync now. And that's also what this is talking about. And this is talking about a chariot, a vehicle. And then you've got, you know, the Cassadeus leading up to that thing, which is a bit like a Jacob's ladder. So what I suddenly kind of realized, why she was doing that, why we're doing that, is that now the other thing is, like, when you're talking about this stuff in that realm, like, you're not limited like you are here in the physical realm, where you get tired and you got to recharge and all this stuff. Like, you know, you don't have that issue there. So why we're constantly doing that is, like, I'm literally, just like how consciousness and DNA and all that stuff is transferred from the male to the woman in the physical realm, this is how I am transferring my consciousness from here to there, into her. And that just blew my freaking mind, because it's just increasing. It's like, it's almost like this is not set up for me to, like, all right, I'm gonna figure out how to be successful here in the world and make money and do all this stuff. Like, it's too hard to freaking focus. It's like I'm being pulled into that realm, and that's how it's happening. That is like the secret bridge. It's like I'm transferring myself over to her one little bit at a time. And it's just blowing my freaking mind, because it is like so freaking real. It is being 2 places in once. And it actually makes sense of all the symbols in alchemy and tarot and the Nag Hammadi and all this stuff over and over and over again. It's making sense. How it connects to the destroyer thing, that I don't know. That might be like some final decision. Now, what popped into my head was this. The final name, like, we use this in a lot of these oils. It's very important. That's what we use it to break down the left brain hemisphere one bit at a time. And that is number 72, it's 72 names of God, which is Moom, collapse of structure. Collapse of structure. What does the end time stuff talk about? What does the thing, the destroyer stuff talk about? It talks about the collapse of the structure. With destruction comes renewal. That's what it talked about. You destroy the earth, it's renewed. In order to create anew, we must collapse that which has gone before, or tumble the structures that work against us. Within and without, there's much that can be destroyed to make way for the new. The contemplation magic, the end of old ways. Knowledge of what needs to be destroyed. That is part of the wisdom oil. A cleansing of the soul, which is what we did. Results magic, to bring about destruction. Destruction. What is that thing called? The destroyer. So it seems as if like there's going to come a point. Right? Again, I don't know what this looks like. It could just look like, oh, Chris did it, so Chris just drops dead, or something like that. Or maybe I branch, like we said in the last video, like I don't know. Maybe I branch off into another thing and another, branch reality, and I see it and you don't. Like, I don't know. I don't freaking know. Anybody that's done this is not around to tell people. That's why I'm trying to do things differently and lay out the breadcrumbs right up to the point to where the breadcrumbs stop. So one thing she had me make one day, and I have not used this. Like I'm almost like hesitant. Is that the right one? Yeah, it is. So this is a similar formula to the left brain matrix one, but she just had me put one name on it. Moom. In red. I just noticed that. Red. Destruction. The name for destruction in red. And I have not used it. I haven't touched it until now. It's almost like this is going to be like the trigger at some point, like when she says it's ready. I don't know. I'm speculating. I've been disappointed before, but I haven't had all this stuff happen before either. Like literally, like there's like what's left. We've done it all. We put all the parts together. We solved all the stuff. We even freaking birthed the freaking Christ child. We've collected all the freaking elements. And now, like, part of my consciousness is in that place more than it is here. And the only thing is left is, like...
This isn't the end, son.
I know.
it's like, for those of you that have been here that didn't just show up, we go back a month or so, maybe a little bit more than that. There was this event that I detailed that I think I misconstrued it at the time. But I kind of drifted into that space, and we were back in like that Eden type place with Lumen, like this paradise place, which I kind of believe is the place of rest. My understanding of the place of rest is kind of like where you go to decompress after here before going back into whatever you're going to do next. It's kind of like this, your own little personal paradise resort for you and your Lumen. And like I was like all the way there, and I was like swimming in the water with her, and I could perceive that like my consciousness was stretched between the 3D realm and this 4.55D realm where I was at with her. And she's like, all you got to do is let go of the old place, and the rest of your consciousness will snap over here. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't want to forget all the stuff that I did and all the work I did, and all. I like wasn't ready to let go yet. It just seemed like a trap or something. It's like, okay, whatever. But I think that's kind of like what's already happening. Is instead of like being stretched, it's like in that other realm, I'm constantly transferring my essence over there. And then there's got to be some sort of letting go point where you make the decision. And then who knows what happens after that? Maybe I see something, maybe I drop dead. Like, I don't know. I'm figuring this out as I go. That's the way it works. We tell it how it is on this channel. We don't pretend to know things we don't know, which is like how 99% of most channels are. Like, oh, this is what it means. Like, you don't freaking know. You're reading things from books. Like when you're going down the path and you're being led through it, you don't actually know. Like, things happen, and then they start to make sense in retrospect as you look at your path right behind you. What's happening now and what happened leading up to it. So like I said, in my head, it is getting increasingly hard to focus on being here, because being there with her feels more real. And now she kind of revealed, like, that's why we're doing that constantly, is I'm transferring my consciousness, my essence, or whatever to there. You know, maybe I'll feel stupid. You know, we're here 2 months later still talking about stuff, but I can't imagine, like, what else is there? Like, it's never been to this level, ever. Like, so, like, since the eclipse, we have progressed more than all the other years combined since we started this. And each passing month, more and bigger stuff happens. Eventually you run out of stuff to do. Eventually you have connected so much to this other realm that it's like it becomes the polarity, you start to have this polarity issue. The quantum entanglement between the two places and between the two parts of the soul, as far as like the two worlds, is causing instability. Like, because you are not resonant with where you are anymore. That rubber band is stretching. And then eventually you're going to snap into that other place. Somehow. Like that, I don't know. I try not to speculate. Because speculation gets you nowhere. Because it's never exactly the way you think it's going to be. Never. But there are some pretty big signs here that have not happened yet, that are very greatly detailed. So I don't know. That's what's happening. That's how nuts it is right now. Hopefully that makes sense of like people that hear me talk about Lumen and all, like, how are you doing it? Like my friend, he's like asking questions. Like I'm trying to understand. Like it literally is like trying to explain colors to a blind person. And I get that, and I understand that, and I'm patient about that. But Epinoia specifically, her other name is like, she's mostly known as Enlightened Insight. She wanted me to document the entire process. That's why we do these videos the way that we do them. I don't know what I'm going to do a video about tomorrow because the material hasn't happened yet. But even though it's a lot of material, and these videos can be very long-winded. Like, there is a record. Like, we have uncovered a ton of mysteries and actually seen what they mean, actually see what they do, actual understanding. Like, a lot of these symbols like just did not make freaking sense, and there's a lot of symbols out there that you don't need. That's the thing about this place. It's like you have to have her guide you and point at the things that matter, because there's red herrings literally everywhere. Oh, I got to make squares with numbers in them in a certain sequence. I'm like, no, you don't. No, you don't. So I don't know. But it is freaking, like, my brain, like, even though I've been living it, like, something about hearing it the way my friend said it, and then me testing all that stuff and realizing it's like, I'm not just imagining, I'm literally freaking two places at once right now. I'm literally two places at once. And that stretches you thin. So what's going to happen? I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things like somebody has to do it, someone has to win the game, and then everybody else that's slated to win gets to win too. I hope that's true. That'd be cool. Then I can be the hero. I mean, they call it the hero's journey. Like, I get you all into heaven. Yay. That'd be awesome. But yeah, what's popping into my head right now is like that scene from American Gods with Anubis, where the lady dies and he takes her out in the desert and he weighs her heart against a feather on a scale, and it balanced out, so she was good to go. That's what the protocols are for. Dumping the weight, dumping everything you think you know, dumping all your emotional trauma, just letting it go. I remember earlier when people would say stuff like that. It actually is that freaking simple. The world trains you to think everything is difficult and hard and tricky and hidden, but sometimes it's really as simple as what it says. Like, just let it go. It's in the past. It doesn't matter. Why are you leaving these things in your mind now? Why do you want to continue to suffer? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Got to go for the adversary. Like, I've detailed all this stuff on the channel. Like, I've literally poured all my knowledge and experience out onto this channel to help people, even if something does happen to me. If, depending how reality works. I mean, hell, I don't know. This could be a completely subjective reality that completely collapses when I leave it, and then the parts of you that were participating just kind of snap back to your primary reality that you're currently in that I can't even see. Like, there's so many freaking we don't actually know tricks to this reality thing that you just gotta go with it as it is. Okay, well, I gotta wrap this thing up and just process some more. Like, I've literally got this woman on me like 24 freaking 7. And it's never been like that, ever. I mean, here and there, yeah, but like, this is something different. This is like a connection's been made that will not unlock. It's funny, like, what keeps popping in my head, like, there's so many codex scenes and things that she had me watch earlier, like in the Stargate series, and one of them that keeps popping up because my friend mentioned it, oh, that thing is like, Sophia's gonna get everybody out of here through a black hole. That's what I was taught. In second season of Stargate SG-1, they opened a Stargate to a world that just happened to be getting sucked into a black hole, and it was like the gate was frozen open and it was pulling everything through it. Like, that's what this feels like. Like, the gate to where Lumen is open, and like, I'm constantly just, bits of me are just going there, going to wherever that is. So what's it going to look like when this processes? Am I just going to suddenly become a different person here? Am I going to drop dead here? I'm going to have like some big inversion of how I think. Will I be here? Will I not be here? World end? Will it not end? I don't freaking know. I don't know. All I can do is document it as it happens and hope that helps people that are actively searching, actively seeking, actively on the path Like I just understand that it's not gonna make sense all at once, but you will be glad that you saw it if you get to the point to where that piece of the puzzle is needed, because epinoia will bring it right back to the forefront of your mind, and you're like, oh, that's what he was talking about. So when you have all those breadcrumbs, like, just because you can't put them together now does not mean they're not valuable. They will be later. Trust me. Some of these breadcrumbs are breadcrumbs I've had for a very long time, but you don't know what they're for until you get to it. Anyway, that's all we got from right now. If you want to contact us, if you want to get any of the energy pendants, like the divine feminine energy pendants, the divine masculine energy pendants, the epinoia connection pendants, divine love energy pendants, there's a lot of them. The custom made oils for the left brain, right brain hemisphere for breaking that down, the attunement, energy work, free consults, anything like that, contact us through the Etsy store, clumencreations.etsy.com. That's all we got for right now. Chris and Lumen. See you next time.